And the third video in the series, we need to return back to Silver by Vallejo Air, add this to some sponge packing that you normally find. Well, I think this miniature actually comes with some sponge packing inside it to protect the materials, so save that sponge, don't throw it away. It is perfect for sponge chipping. So instead of laboriously edge highlighting everything, take some sponge chipping, add a few dots here and there to give texture and definition to the end pieces of your vehicles, of any guns that you have in your force as well. Now let's concentrate on wet blending some of these portions. So wet blending is a beautiful technique that we can employ to create very subtle, very easy blends in a very short space of time. So I've added Telemon black to the cabling to begin with, then I've added coal black from Formula P3 plus Telemon black, coal black and Telemon black as a wash. I washed this over the surface of the cabling, and while the paint was still drying, I've taken ivory from Vallejo, and with the tip of the brush I've just started to blend the colours together. The white should be a lot thicker, should be a lot more concise than the glaze there, than the Telemon black plus Incubi. So you can see it's not nowhere near as watered down as much. I'm very roughly adding that to the surface, and while the paint is still drying I can maneuver my brush back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to help develop the blend. Now I'm very aware I make this look frustratingly easy because I've done this for a while. Take an older miniature and give this a try. Start with black to build up the consistency, build up your muscle memory of it. So the one thing we need to keep in mind, the glaze portion of it should be quite thin, whereas the highlight colour should be quite concise. It isn't watered down at all. Move the brush quickly and confidently across the surface to develop the highlight. Do not be afraid of over highlighting. When the paint starts to settle, when it starts to dry completely, well, we will not end up with as bright a contrast. As the paint starts to dry, the molecules start to develop into one another, and we will end up with a slightly less eye-poppingly loud highlight layer. Then we come in with glaze layers and layering later on to refine what we do here. So when wet blending, my biggest piece of advice would be bold, be big, be expressive, and be confident with your brush strokes as well. Now that the wet layers have dried, I can come in with ivory mixed with coal black, mixed with Telemon black to develop a layering technique. So I've just added that mixture very roughly to the surface where I want them to be. I'll knock off excess paint from my brush and I'll blend them together, I'll feather the two together. For the eye, I black in the surface area, then I add pure ivory into the highlight. Next up I use blue-green from Vallejo Model Color for that ice blue appearance. I will then further highlight the eye underneath and add a touch of black up top. What I'm trying to create here is a three-dimensional kind of diamond appearance to give the impression of a deep surface that you're looking beyond with the glass. So I need a line underneath here and 2 dots in the top to create the smile. So line, 2 dots. Whenever you create a eye lens, or whenever you do try and create a gem, always finish off with that pattern. 2 dots in the darkest area and then an underline of white. It should create a rough smile. Once you see it, you'll never be able to unsee it, unfortunately, so sorry for that. Okay, for this step, we are using blue-green plus Cabalite green as our initial layer. Then I'll increase the amount of blue-green in the mixture for the highlight. You can go on to sponge chip these with Rhinox hide, or maybe a touch of copper would be nice. But ultimately, that's where I will leave those. Same color combination for any gems and jewels that appear on the miniature. For the armor plates, if you do wish to develop them further, you can use gold from Vallejo Model Color or the Vallejo Model Air range, plus silver to edge highlight and develop the plates further. But ultimately, this is the run through, this is the tutorial. I really hope you've enjoyed it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the entire Advent series up until this point. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.